Purposely. Your life, God's purpose. Listen at purposely.com.
How do you define the word pure or purity? Hey, this is Jen. You're listening to the Bible for Busy People podcast. This week we're talking about things that God considers to be of great worth. And yesterday we read James 1 verse 27, which tells us what our religion ought to look like. Religion that God our Father accepts as pure and faultless is this: to look after orphans and widows in their distress and to keep oneself from being polluted by the world. Yesterday, we talked about generosity, but today we're talking about that second part, that keeping oneself from being polluted by the world. Actually, pure is almost said twice in this passage. There's pure and faultless religion, but then keeping oneself from being polluted by the world also indicates purity. The purity of our hearts is a beautiful, valuable thing to God. Now, I grew up in what's known as purity culture within my church. Sexual purity was of crucial importance, and oddly, it seemed to carry more weight than almost any other sin. So, of course, the result of that thinking was a very strict code of conduct. There were standards like a very modest dress code, only dating certain people who were part of the church and who were determined to be strong in their faith. There were rules like not spending time together too late at night or alone with someone of the opposite sex. Sexual sin was the most shameful thing, it felt like. It was spoken of in hushed whispers, and it sent people into like this immediate action of, okay, what do we need to do about this? How are we going to bring about repentance? Just all of those things. Now, I'm not saying not to take sexual sin seriously. I'm saying that it seemed to take on a heavier role than a lot of other sins, and it was dealt with very severely, and it was it was just very protective. It was a very protective environment. We otherwise pointedly did not talk about sex until we were married or about to be, and then it was almost to the other extreme. There was just this really strong focus on not causing each other to struggle. Now, I'm going to say something controversial. All of that said, there were parts of purity culture that I personally didn't hate. Maybe that's because I'm more inclined to cover up than not when it comes to my clothing, but also because I felt very safe and secure in an environment of accountability and intentionality in relationships. But clearly, there were harmful things about it too, things that I'm still untangling. Like, why did we value sexual purity but dismiss impure motives like greed or power? Why did the church harshly condemn sexual impurity in some, but then excuse it for others? These are some of the things that I am untangling from purity culture. Now, if you're exploring a similar experience in your spiritual formation journey, by the way, my friend Dr. Camden Morgante wrote a book called Recovering from Purity Culture that you should look into. While sexual purity is a factor in a pure heart, purity does not only have to do with sexuality. Interestingly enough, if you search purity online, most results have something to do with sexual purity. And yes, it is important, but it's not everything when it comes to purity. In fact, I think if we understand purity better, we can take a more healthy approach with purity culture, with sexual purity, all of it. Paul says in Philippians 1 verses 9 through 11, "And this is my prayer, that your love may abound more and more in knowledge and depth of insight, so that you may be able to discern what is best, and may be pure and blameless for the day of Christ, filled with the fruit of righteousness that comes through Jesus Christ, to the glory and praise of God." The Greek word for pure here is eilikrines, and Help's Word Studies describes it this way. Eilikrines, sincere because transparent, describes something proven because well examined, totally scrutinized, therefore certified as sincere, inwardly pure. Eilikrines naturally refers to something completely clear, free from hypocrisy, deceit, wickedness, which stands in the full light of God's approval. Ascension Press has a blog post on purity that's linked in the show notes and defines it this way in contrast to sexual purity. Biblical purity is better described as spiritual single-mindedness, wholeheartedness. Purity is so powerful because it is focused single-mindedness. In a sense, it's a contradiction of multitasking. This wholeheartedness leads inexorably away from instability and doubt unto to rest and stability when its object is God. Purity indicates reverence and devotion to God, a heart not pulled away by our own ambition or insecurity or idols or control. God values this, of course. In introducing the law to the Israelites, Deuteronomy 6 verse 4 says, "Hear, O Israel, the Lord our God, the Lord is one. Love the Lord your God with all your heart and with all your soul and with all your strength." As Jesus later says, "Love the Lord your God with all your heart and with all your soul and with all your mind. This is the first and greatest commandment, and the second is like it. Love your neighbor as yourself." All the law and prophets hang on these two commandments. Psalm 24 verses 3-4 says, "Who may ascend to the mountain of the Lord? Who may stand in his holy place? The one who has clean hands and a pure heart, who does not trust in an idol or swear by a false god." Another prayer says, "Create in me a pure heart, O God, and renew a steadfast spirit within me." Psalm 51 verse 10. The Hebrew word used for pure here is tahor, which means ceremonially, physically, and morally clean, free from defilement. The topical lexicon on Bible Hub says it occurs about 93 times across the Hebrew scriptures, forming one of the major vocabulary pillars for the themes of holiness, separation, and wholehearted devotion to the Lord. This makes me think about the terms set apart or consecrated. God is set apart, and so the people of God, made in God's image, are and ought to be set apart. But because of sin, we've lost our ability to be set apart. So God rescues and restores us to the good creation we were meant to be. Matthew 5 verse 8 says, "Blessed are the pure in heart, for they will see God." We draw near to God when we are made pure by God. Love and knowing God and discernment help us to continue to move closer to God. What has been your understanding of purity? Does it fall more under the heading of purity culture, or does it look more like wholeheartedness, single-mindedness, like we talked about today? Does it align with wholeheartedness in your life? And what does that look like for you? What would purity of heart really look like for you in your life? I'll leave you with that, and we'll talk again tomorrow.
Thank you for listening to the Bible for Busy People. If you need prayer or want to go deeper in your faith, visit our show notes. Will you take a moment to share with a friend and leave a review? It helps the Bible get into even more people's minds and hearts. Find more podcasts that will recharge you at purposely.com.